John, the big existence question, why is there anything at all, has been the question that has most troubled me throughout my life. And I actually get depressed, deflated, when I see philosophers dismissing that question as utterly meaningless and just kind of tossing it aside. I feel like a piece of garbage being thrown in the road because this is my passion, and I'm told that it doesn't mean anything.
I think the question why there's anything at all can be a significant question, depending on how broadly it's construed. I mean, if you take the truth of 2 plus 2 equaling 4 to be something, then I'm going to say it's not a very significant question because 2 plus 2 can't help but be 4, all right? So it's always going to be the case, it's necessarily the case that 2 plus 2 is 4. So if that's something, well then, there's no real question why there's something rather than nothing, because that's got to be the case, right? But presumably the question that you're concerned with is why are there any concrete realities, not just the abstract realities of mathematics or logic, but why is there a world? Why are there existent things at all instead of nothing?
Or physical laws, which are
or laws of nature
things,
which structure those physical things,
right.
Okay, so if you take it that way, I think the question is significant. Just for example, you can imagine a possible world. We can show that it's significant by showing that certain possibilities obtained. There's a possible world in which there are exactly 5 concrete things, okay? 5 concrete entities. Perhaps there are laws governing their interaction, perhaps not. But we can, in imagination, we can just subtract one after another until we get 0. So now there's nothing, all right? So it's quite conceivable that there should be nothing. There's a possible world in which there is nothing concrete. Okay, so that's why I think it's a significant question. All right, so how to handle it? Well, at this point we need to notice a level distinction. Are we going to say about these things that exist, the things that are troubling you, that you worry about, why do they exist? Are we going to say that they're all contingent things, or are we going to allow that some of them are necessary? Now, by contingent I mean things that might not have existed, okay? Things that get into existence, as it were, by the skin of their metaphysical teeth. They got in, they exist, like you and me, we exist, right? Cool. All the things around us exist, but they might not have existed, all right? We can conceive, again, of worlds in which they don't exist. So are we going to say that that's true about all concrete things?
That everything
they are
is contingent?
A lot depends on this, so maybe I should ask you. Are you inclined to say that everything that exists is contingent?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I
can't think of anything concrete that is necessarily the case, existing no matter what, like 2 plus 2 equals 4. I cannot.
Now, of course, some philosophers disagree with you. They think, for example, that if there were a God of a certain kind, this God would exist necessarily. It wouldn't be like this chair or like your body and mind that might not exist.
And some atheistic philosophers would say, just as you say, somebody says that God exists necessarily, the universe as it is could exist necessarily.
Either way, if you said either of those things, you would have an answer to the question. That's my point.
But that's not a real answer. That's just putting the word necessary on things that are not clear to me that are necessary.
Well, it's an answer for somebody who believes that they are necessary. You just don't, right?
Yeah, but I don't see any demonstration of that, as opposed to the 2 plus 2 equals 4. There are some people say that's a fiction, but I can see that that's necessary. But I can't see that with the physical world.
But if you did see that, if you thought that there was a God who existed necessarily, then you would think you had an answer.
Sure,
but
by definition.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm inclined to be sympathetic to your view that there is nothing that exists, no concrete thing that exists necessarily. So suppose we go with that. Suppose we say that every concrete thing, all concrete things, including a collection of concrete things, exists contingently, might not have existed. Then I say,
and we say concrete thing, we could even mean spiritual concrete things like God.
Yes.
That's a concrete thing.
That's still a concrete thing.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
If that's how we understand the matter, then I would say that although the question is significant, it cannot be answered. So you're gonna continue.
You're not happy by saying
you're not thrown out on the side of the road, but you're going to continue to worry about this or be troubled by it because it cannot be answered. Why is that? Because if everything is contingent, every concrete thing and the collection of concrete things, if this is all contingent, then no matter what answer I give to the question, why is there something? Why is there this or that or the whole collection? It's going to have to be in terms of some other contingent thing. The only explanation that could be given would be in terms of some other contingent thing. So suppose I give such an explanation. Suppose it's a contingent God. I can always ask, why is there that something
right.
rather than nothing?
So
Precisely because it's contingent.
So here's what you're driving me to.
Yeah.
You're driving me to my two original thoughts, my assumptions. One of them has to be wrong, because you've shown me that you can't answer the question with them both being right. Number one, that there is no contingent, that nothing concrete is necessary.
Right.
I mean, that's clear.
That's an assumption you're willing to make.
That's an assumption I'm willing to make. And if I'm doing that, that must, and I'm saying that the question is meaningful.
Yes.
Right. I want to hold both of those.
You're stuck with saying that
the
the question
solution
is significant but unanswerable.
and that's not acceptable, because that to me is a mistake. So that means one of my two assumptions may be wrong. Maybe the question is meaningless.
But at what level is it
maybe there's a
unsatisfying?
concrete thing that's necessary.
At what level, in what way is it unsatisfying? It might be emotionally unsatisfying, all right? But intellectually, it might be all that we can live.
Look, at
all
this
we can
stage,
say.
I would say that I would have to give up one of my two assumptions.
Okay.
Either the question is meaningless.
All right.
Maybe it's meaningless. Maybe that's the worst answer, but maybe
right.
I have to go with that. I'd rather it to be a meaningless question than to accept the fact that it's a meaningful question that will never have an answer.
So here are your options. You can either say that there is something, or there might be something necessary after all, in which case you can continue the pursuit of an answer.
Right.
Or if you say that everything concrete is contingent, you have to say, to my mind, this is my view anyway, which I've defended, that there's no way of answering.
Or the question really is meaningless.
Or it's meaningless. That's the third option, right? There are some philosophers who are defending that, and as open-minded thinkers, we have to continue to be open to the idea that they're right.